Carl Sagan could not have predicted 2021, but he did see it coming. He wrote the following back in 1995, and we quote, "I have a foreboding of an America in my children's or grandchildren's time when the United States is a service and information economy, when nearly all the manufacturing industries have slipped away to other countries, when awesome technological powers are in the hands of a very few, and no one representing the public interest can even grasp the issues, when the people have lost the ability to set their own agendas or knowledgeably question those in authority, when, clutching our crystals and nervously consulting our horoscopes, our critical faculties in decline, unable to distinguish between what feels good and what's true, we slide almost without noticing back into superstition and darkness. The dumbing down of America is most evident in the slow decay of substantive content in the enormously influential media, the 30-second sound bites now down to 10 seconds or less, lowest common denominator programming, credulous presentations on pseudoscience and superstition, but especially a kind of celebration of ignorance." Roll that around for a while. Those were among his final published words. He died 10 months later. Here we are 25 years later, realizing just what he was trying to tell us.
Ashton Forbes, you know, that super jacked guy.
Malaysian 370, contact Ho Chi Minh 120.9. Good night. Good night, Malaysian 370.
You know who it is.
Tonight, a Malaysia Airlines flight with 239 people on board, including 4 Americans, has gone missing.
Even as these grainy satellite images released today by the Chinese government.
Again, the Malaysian flight too was one shot at China saying knock it off.
Why shoot it down though if it's not hostile?
Our technologies permit us to manipulate time and space.
Why the Americans would?
They leave distance annihilated.
This country is very powerful. Far more powerful than people understand. We have weaponry that nobody has any idea what it is, and it is the most powerful weapons in the world. Not even close.
I remembered the line from the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty. And to impress him, takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds."
Not even close, Chad.
I suppose we all thought that, one way or another.
Not even close. Not even close. That really is the theme of tonight's stream. But before we get to all of that, I have a special message for Hal Puthoff. For Hal Puthoff and all his orbiters. Special message for you all. I'm going to take your scientific work that you worked on, that you hid in the black projects, and I'm going to steal it. I'm going to take credit for it. I'm going to write the scientific papers that predict it based on your work, based on your experimental work, and reveal what you won't reveal. Reveal what you rightfully invented, rightfully developed, but you can't talk about. How's that going to feel? Just tell me. I just want to know, how's it going to feel? That's all. Now that that's said, let's talk about what they're hiding. For people that have been not paying attention to my live streams, I don't blame you. I don't blame you. I have no subscription. Wait, I do have subscriptions turned on, don't I? I might have subscriptions turned on. However, I don't sell anything. This is just a dude who figured some shit out, telling you, some other dudes, how it all goes down. So here's what you need to know. The United States figured out high beta plasmas in the 1960s in their high altitude nuclear weapons tests, because these produced large diamagnetic cavities where they were able to figure out, oh crap, we are manipulating space-time. And they have been hiding that for decades. Now let's fast forward a little bit to the last few weeks. Watch the last couple live streams. What we've figured out is that they have developed this technology and it took off with quantum computers. As you saw in those videos in the intro today, the MH370 videos, there is no way in hell a human being is moving these orbs, plasma balls, high beta plasma balls. There's no way a human being is controlling those. They're drones. They're remote controlled by a computer, a supercomputer, maybe a super powerful AI for all we know. Now, it turns out there was a super powerful AI that was declassified, only one, called Sentient. Like 2012, it was declassified. Turned out it's this massive data ingestion system that can even predict what's going to happen. Like it might have been able to predict those people were going to be on that plane in 2014. And therefore, that would be a good point to strike an operation. It might be able to control these plasma orbs in real time using the surveillance footage that we're watching of MH370. To me, that is extremely scary. That is more scary than anything else. Scarier than free energy to me. Because now you're giving the AI free energy. So, what was I going to say on this part? I was going to talk about how these orbs have to be using that. But there was something else that we discovered that's probably even bigger than this in terms of how this works. You know, I was just reading a post by Jack Sarfati about how he's discovered the physics of metamaterials and I think negative refractive index materials. And he's claiming this is how the UFOs fly. And first of all, the guy cannot even copy paste correctly into a Twitter post. He literally copy and pasted the same thing twice. Can just someone help him? I mean, this is just like, you're trying to tell me that you're trying to solve how UFOs fly, and you can't copy and paste. You can't even proofread that you copy and pasted a post correctly before you hit the post button. I mean, this is just, you know, you're not going to be taken seriously if you can't do basic functions in humanity. So what I want to say, though, is that, oh, God, I'm losing my train of thought. Here's the answer. They are using the Casimir effect. The orbs are using the Casimir effect. When we watch these orbs spinning around the plane, let me pull up the drone video here, the Gorgon stare wide area motion imagery of the ZAP we see from above. One of the big questions you would have if you're saying, hey, this is teleporting a plane, how are the orbs like able to stay and match the speed of the plane perfectly? And it must be hard to teleport an object that's moving like that. Now, when we talk about the dynamic Casimir effect, a way to amplify or to bring down the Schwinger limit or to amplify energy to cause vacuum interactions that happen at lower energy, one of the ways we look at is moving the plates, the dynamic Casimir effect. So with the Casimir effect, we put these plates together and they just come together. That's vacuum. That's extracting vacuum energy. When those plates come together, we're getting free energy from somewhere. So the dynamic Casimir effect says just wobble the plates back and forth like this, and then light will just appear from the vacuum. The dynamic Casimir effect. And so this speaks to like a resonance condition in the movement of the plates that somehow is causing the Schwinger limit to be hit at a lower energy. That there's some kind of resonance condition going on here. So these are the keys that we have for our videos and our orbs. But then going back to these videos here, you would say, well, Ashton, but there's no plates. How are they doing this? They can't be using the Casimir effect. There's no plates. Oh, they're using the fucking Casimir effect, all right. They're using it. Of course they're oscillating. Of course the plates are oscillating. They're using the dynamic Casimir effect here, in fact. Because when you look at it, let's not imagine it from our perspective, watching it from the drone above. Let's imagine it from the perspective of being on the plane itself. If we're on the plane itself, what are those orbs doing from our perspective, from our frame of reference in the plane? From our frame of reference in the plane, the orbs are basically just oscillating around us. Whoop, 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 whoop. They're dynamically changing the boundary condition in the region simply around us, around the plane itself. Yeah. These orbs are without any shadow of a doubt, no shadow of a doubt. They are teleporting, they are wormholing this airplane through an extra dimension that we simply don't see. It's not as simple as they're rocketing that plane and speeding it up like a railgun. They're actually manipulating our reality, space-time, because it turns out there's this weird effect with electromagnetism, and they found a way to amplify it. But this is only possible under a lot of specific conditions. This is the rub. This is only possible under a bunch of extremely specific conditions. Number one, super advanced supercomputers, or just straight up AI. Like, you can't do this with humans punching numbers. This shit is too dynamic. And it's too exact, way too exact. So this is what scares me, because it makes me think that they have a tool, a weapon, an AI tool that they have been feeding and letting get extremely powerful, to the point where I don't even know what's going on here. Like, this is so far beyond my belief system that if they weren't recording this in 2 videos, like if this was the only video we had, I would say they just randomly caught this. They were just, I don't know why the drone was up there, but they just randomly were recording this and they happened to see it. But we have a second video of them like zooming in on it in like super high definition. So it's like, I'm sorry, there's just no way you're caught in 4K. There is no way you're avoiding responsibility for this. We've got you super close up. This drone isn't randomly like flying under the wake of the plane while the smoke is coming out of the back of it. So what that means is that there's a lot of conditions. Number one condition, they've got some kind of crazy fucking AI. Number two condition, they've figured out how to manipulate space-time itself. So sure, can they do fusion? Yeah, fusion's actually just pretty straight up trivial, because they can manipulate space-time itself. They can probably impact the strong force and Coulomb repulsion. So it's like, if you can do something like this, it's scary to think what you can pull off. You can teleport a giant airplane. So what this means is this is not something that was just discovered. This wasn't a test. They weren't like, oh, hey, maybe we should figure out if we can make you orbs spin around the plane and teleport something. Man. This was like, we've done this. We've done this rodeo a number of times. We've been here. We've done this before. And so that, to me, because what am I getting at here? What's the point of this? I think there's only 2 possibilities. I'll let this play out because it's crazy. Maybe you guys haven't seen it enough. There's only 2 possibilities. These things are definitely dynamically changing space-time vacuum. And also what they're doing, this is only possible. Why? There has to be multiple of them. That's part of the gimmick here. You can't do this with just one orb. Why are you seeing these weird formations and things like that? Because they use that to amplify the effect. They use that to create like a unified field system of electromagnetism that's powerful enough to actually interact with space-time. Because it turns out you can't just do this if you're a caveman, rubbing 2 sticks together. It requires extremely precise conditions and extremely high energy levels, or at least extremely tuned energy levels, resonant conditions. And so the reason why you're not seeing random people stumble across this is because the conditions to pull this off are extremely, extremely precise. So this is why also, It requires the full funding and backing of a state government, not any state government, the only government that could do this. There's only one. There's only one. China couldn't do this. Russia could, at least not in 2014. Only one that could do this is the United States of America. Simple as that. Is what it is. That's the situation here. So now, why am I bringing this up? Because to me, there's only two possibilities. You know, this is clearly connected to UFOs. And what we're looking at in that video, I want to be explicitly clear. This is Hal Puthoff's space-time metric engineering. Guys, first thing I did when I looked at this was, okay, what science can explain this? Turns out there's a fucking old-ass CIA guy who's a major spook who helped get 38 papers written that were all classified, that all got declassified under FOIA like 7 years ago. 8 years ago. And now those are all the papers that explain it. And that's the guy. He's the guy, Hal Puthoff. Simple as that. Got it? Hal Puthoff. And it's kind of stupid that people haven't really like figured out that he's the guy because he was nominated for a Nobel Prize. And I think for this paper for space-time metric engineering. And he gets all his papers published in the top physics journals, like the top #1 journals. And he's got all these like open defense contracts, connections. And everybody just goes, no, it's pseudoscience. And they're like, yeah, okay, it's pseudoscience. Ignore it. I wonder if he likes that. Maybe he likes that. Okay, where's this going? This is going to be an investigation stream. So we were going to talk about all that. We were going to talk more about all the science stuff, but we've talked so much science, and we have pushed the boundaries far beyond what I think is probably into national security territory. So instead, what I want to do is I want to understand the why. The thing that bugs me the most about this is the why. Why are they doing this, and what's this all about? So the story that I think I have laid out very cleanly is one in which we've figured this out from nuclear weapons, high-altitude nuclear weapon testing, where we figure out these high beta plasmoids. We get these super high-energy conditions. And that we developed this technology for multiple decades, and it starts to kind of leak out because people are starting to figure out unified field theories based on this. 0-point energy, for example. And then quantum computers come in, and now we have plasma balls that are flying around in the sky, and everyone's saying they're seeing the aliens. So that's one theory, that the alien topic is being used, and maybe intentionally and calculated, being used to cover up this technology and the clandestine activities that they're doing with this technology, like MH370, and who knows how many other things. The only reason we ever had any chance of even figuring MH370 out is because 2 videos leaked on the internet in perfect synchronization from completely different angles from 2 super advanced surveillance platforms. Without that, we would have never figured out MH370. Never in a million years. Wouldn't matter how many years. So imagine what else they've gotten away with that we've had no idea about. Probably a lot of shit. Probably a lot of shit. Now, General McCasland. This shit is keeping me up at night, chat. A general disappeared. Suddenly, his wife goes out to the doctors. Hey, babe, have a good doctor's appointment. See you in less than an hour. Okay, bye. She leaves. He fucking disappears. No, he doesn't even disappear. Let's just timeline this. She gets in the Suburban. She drives off. He gets up into a full sprint, puts his phone on the counter, runs to the bedroom, changes all his clothes, goes to the safe, grabs his gun out of the safe, leaves his phone, takes off his smartwatch or anything that could track him, and bolts out of the house. Wife comes back 40 minutes later. He's just gone. She's probably wondering, what the fuck? His phone's sitting there on the counter, and you're going, that's weird. His phone is there? He would have brought his phone anywhere. She goes to the safe and his gun is missing. That's super weird, right? No forced entry in the house. Okay, so what I'm saying here, I was already mega suspicious of this whole situation because turns out this guy was Air Force Research Lab commander. As in, he's the top dog in the food chain of the Air Force Research Labs. And I'm staring at a dozen scientific papers that all explain electrogravitics and these plasma balls. Like literally one called literally Ball Lightning Study. Literally all about exotic vacuum objects. And now the commander of that research labs, suddenly this happens to him, just disappears and vanishes. And people on the internet are trying to fucking gaslight me and say that he just wanted to go die somewhere in the middle of nowhere where no one would ever find him. He was sick of living. So that's the way he decided he wasn't going to tell his wife. He wanted to make it a mystery for everyone. Just get out. If that's how you think right now, I'm just going to tell you, you are not going to make it. You are not going to make it for what's to come. Simple as that. You already failed the test. Where's this going? Well, I was already suspicious as hell. And I've been wondering why Tom Delonge has not spoken up about this, because Tom Delonge, he apparently was put in contact with McCasland. We find out he was put in contact with McCasland, and then we also find out from Eric Burleson, Congressman Burleson, that they had been in touch with McCasland as well for their UFO thing. Now there's just no way in hell that this could be random. Now we know that I don't know exactly why or who took him, but this guy got taken by somebody. He either got kidnapped, he either got killed, the defense contractors took him out, the CIA, somebody took this dude. There is just no way that it was a random disappearance. There's no way. So where the hell is he? Because here's the reality. There's a missing general somewhere. There's cameras everywhere in the world in 2026. We got secret spy surveillance and orb technology. We know where the hell he is. Use our Batman technology. Use our Batman technology and use the weird triangulation spook shit. Use the ghost murmur on him. Find him. Do whatever you got to do. Just stop gaslighting me. Tell me you don't know where he is. There's going to be crash outs tonight. I can already feel it. So here we go. Why are we crashing out about this? I think we'll watch this whole clip we got here on this. Because somebody found an interview of McCasland talking to Tom Delonge. Or not to McCasland. Tom Delonge talking about his meeting with General McCasland. Let me say that again. Someone found a fucking clip of Tom Delonge talking about his first introduction with General McCasland, and I'm going to react to this. Get ready. Here we go. Holy shit.
When I got connected to the general, that was a big, big breakthrough. And before I talk a little bit more about how I got more trust from these guys, what happened is I was up at NASA Ames. I got connected to a very specific person, and that person had me fly out and meet them. So this is where it gets really interesting. So I go out to a certain city, and I land at the airport, and I walk through security, and I meet this person. The person takes me to a restaurant that's right past security, and I go to the back of the restaurant. There's nobody in that area, and we sit at a booth for 2 hours. And while we're sitting there, he leans across the table, and this is the very first words that were said to me. It was the Cold War, and every single day we lived under the threat of nuclear war.
Bro, what? This happened? Holy shit, chat. Where are the glasses, chat? I don't know. I don't even know if I can do this. Because it's all just coming out, right? Like the picture is being painted clear. The first thing that the general tells Tom Delonge, right? He's probably so excited to tell another human being what's really going on. First thing he tells them, it was the Cold War. Fuck, motherfucker, pardon my French, kids. They hid this shit because it was the Cold War and we were trying to prevent nuclear annihilation. And you could justify anything. You could justify anything in those scenarios where we were literally afraid every day that they might fire a nuclear missile at us and wipe us out, and there was nothing we could do to stop it. And we developed some crazy orb technology that can literally teleport those nuclear weapons back onto the Kremlin at will, whenever we want. Something we developed a countermeasure that's the ultimate countermeasure that can't be stopped. And it's no coincidence that the person telling Tom Delonge this is the guy that upgraded all of our nuclear weapons, chat. You hear that crack in my voice? That is because I can't even freaking believe what I am saying. This is the guy that literally upgraded our nuclear weapons, and he is whistleblowing to a Blink 182 musician about UFO technology, super advanced technology. He starts with, it was the Cold War. Wow.
Every single day, we believed and really thought in the deepest part of our souls that nuclear war could happen at any given moment. And then he stops and he goes, and somewhere in those years, and he looked me in the eye, he goes, we found a life form. And everything that we did and every decision that we made with that life form was because of the consciousness at that time. And I said, sir, you know, when taking into account things that this life form has done, for example, turning our nuclear weapons on and readying them for launch, and then he interrupts me, puts a finger in my face and says, there are heroes in Russia, heroes, and under grave risk to himself.
What do you guys think they're talking about? In the chat, what do you think they were just talking about there? First thing he says is, we found a life form. And then the response he says is, sir, it was turning nuclear weapons on. And he says, there are heroes in Russia. Who just said it? They're not talking about aliens. He's talking about AI. He's fucking talking about AI. Holy shit. I thought he might be talking about plasmas too. No, I think he's talking about AI. I think he's, what could control the nuclear weapons? An AI system that you give access to our weapons. That could control our nuclear weapons. How long have we had AI? How long have we actually had AI? I bet you we've had it way longer than what people think. Just think about it. We developed computers for nuclear weapons. So they would have wanted more and more advanced computers to control the nuclear weapons. And eventually you're going to get AI, quantum computers. And then they wouldn't have put the guardrails in that we would have put in from the public perspective. They would have just let that shit go crazy. Let it have all the information and data, because, I mean, steal proprietary data. It doesn't matter. No one's ever going to see it. It's all classified. I think he's talking about AI in this clip right here. I don't think he's talking about aliens. Anyway, I mean, could be talking about aliens, could be talking about plasmas, but my take there is AI.
And to his country, they did not fire back. And at that moment, I realized it already started. This new game I was in of working with people in like a dance of words, and information was already coming. There was no like small talk. Like, we didn't just sit down and just say, hey, let's have a beer and let's get to know each other.
So let's jump back to that. Let's jump back to that conversation. It was the Cold War. I mean, he's given you sort of the setting for how the cover-up, or what we'd call the cover-up, began.
Yeah, so this is very important for people to remember, and this is where I'm so excited to start chopping down all these pathetic conspiracies that I was involved in as well. You know, It was the Cold War. He's saying that every day they really thought about the annihilation of all mankind with these, weapons that were hundreds or thousands of times bigger than what we dropped on Japan, and we had 20,000 each of those things. And all of a sudden, something falls on their laps that's just extraordinary, But even further than that, if you really hear what I'm saying about the nuclear weapons, the UFOs were turning our weapons on, and just so Russia could pick up that we're firing our missiles and fire theirs first. It was a big chess game. So these guys went into complete secrecy to start coming up with a defense system against this phenomenon. Now, I try to tell people some analogies on this. Imagine if someone from the CIA came to your house and sat on your couch and said, hey, I want to tell you about that nuclear weapon that they tried to smuggle in through Canada 2 months ago. And I also want to tell you about this, virus that almost got released in Los Angeles. And I want to, all these, they're not going to do that because they're going to be busy trying to figure out to find the people that did it or to seal off the borders or to come up with a game plan to get better defensive measures across our, our country, whatever they're doing. That's how this is. That's how big this issue is. They're not worried about.
Sorry, I'm muted. So this is crazy because we're watching this and we're watching this now. And back then they had no idea that we know what we know now relative to what they were saying back then. And now how this lines up. Of course, everybody was thinking when they first listened to that, they're all thinking aliens, and maybe it is, right? But the other answer to the question of, is the alien thing a cover-up? The alien thing could be real. Could be that we figured this out from some crash retrieval or something like that, and that we figured out this extra technology. But if you look at it, that story doesn't need that. The story doesn't need any of that to make sense. That's just a lot of stuff that people have had experiences and they've put their own ideas onto what this phenomenon is. And when you listen to these guys like Hal Puthoff, etc., they are never specific about what the aliens are. They just say non-human. In fact, they get more and more vague with it. They go, we're not going to call it anything specific. We're going to call it non-human intelligence. It can be multiple things. You're telling me these people don't know what it is after studying it for their whole life, figuring out how all the physics works? No, they know what's going on. They're just not telling us. Anyway, let's keep going. This gets interesting.
If you and I totally understand, because they're too busy trying to understand it and come up with a way to defend against it. And at the same time,
now let me speak to this for a second. Let's indulge, because I am not against any one particular outcome. People may think I'm against aliens or experiencers. I'm absolutely not. I'm open-minded to everything. My evidence shows me there's not much there when it comes to the alien side. However, let's imagine that there is some advanced technology or some sort that we got from aliens, right? Aliens are coming from the future, the past, or whatever the hell is going on. They're coming from Andromeda. We're shooting them down with radar beams or whatever we're doing, scalar beams. Who cares? Whatever, right? Let's say that's happening. Crash retrievals. The situation then is probably like the three-body problem. We are the threat. Humans are the threat. I think you guys underestimate how much of a threat humans can be. Yes, 99% of us are dum-dums that are basically just cattle. But the 1% of us that can figure out the orb technology and quantum computers and make all that stuff work, we can do anything. We can adapt to anything. And the scariest part is imagine that that this technology is alien origin. That means we figured out alien technology, not just figured it out and weaponized it, and now we're using it. Now we're using it randomly against other human nations on our planet. I hope to shit that's not true. I hope to shit that's not true. That's even darker. That's even darker than us just figuring out aliens being a lie and a cover-up. Because that reality is true, then the aliens should be afraid of us. If we're making shit to defend against the aliens are fucked, chat. Humans are smart as shit, and we're adaptive. We're adaptive. You can wipe out 99% of us, and the 1% of it that rises up will take you out. Humans have a superpower. It's called evolution. And I don't think we really even know how it works. We just know that we get better and we get smarter as our generations go on and on and on. But we're a very adaptive species. And anything, like I say, there is no alien physics. Anything that exists in the physical reality, human beings can control and engineer. That's pretty scary. Okay, let's keep going. That was for you, alien lovers. Remember, all the aliens are real, every single one, including especially the thick whites. They're especially real.
They really want people to understand this, to know these things, but they don't want it to mess up their efforts. The more that I started to find out, I thought it was a pretty heroic tale, that these were really good men and women. Do you know that in that first conversation that I had with that general, during the 2 hours, I mean, I didn't even leave the airport. I was in this back booth, and I'll get to security, get on a plane, go right back home. It was crazy meeting. But during that, he must have brought up what was best for the quote, best for the republic, best for the free republic. He brought that up probably 8 different times. It's very, very, very important to these men what is best for the United States as a free country, free-thinking man, and the republic that we built. They're not these crazies running around trying to war. They're not warmongers, you know. Very smart. This person has multiple PhDs, and I wish I could tell you who he is and what he. There was nobody.
So now we know. We only know now that was McCasland he was talking about back then. Which fucking shit, dude. So, this is the real reveal, right? Everyone wants the answer to be there's this elite evil cabal of people that's controlling everyone, but it's not like that. The situation's more like we're in the Cold War. We were developing technology to stop nuclear weapons. We can't reveal that publicly because we're using it to stop nuclear weapons. But we also happen to figure out space-time manipulation in the process. And so we want the world to know the truth about how physics actually works, about the real world, not the fake-ass shit that you get fed. But at the same time, we have to protect the nation. We have to protect national security. We have to maintain our technological advantage over our adversaries. So you have to weigh these two. Now imagine the psychological toll that having that albatross, having that decision, having that burden, that's worse than the Lord of the Rings, chat. That's worse than the One Ring. That will eat at you alive every day. That's the reason why General McCasland reached out to Tom DeLonge. That's the reason why he was willing to talk to Blink-182 rock star. Now, this is what I want you to think about. This has been obviously just revealing and amazing. Well, let's take it to the next level. Let's take it to the stars. After this, Tom DeLonge starts To the Stars Academy. Why? What was their goal? What were they thinking? What were they doing? The truth is, I don't exactly know, but I'm going to speculate in a minute. I want you to think about that, though, while I can let him continue here.
Above him. There's nobody. Maybe a couple. But when you look at the divisions of how the Department of Defense works, and this specific division, it's just extraordinary that I have this contact. So I started using it as much as I could. So I said, so taking it from that point, we talked for 2 hours, and I said, sir, I need an advisory committee. And we walked through what I need and why. And so he went out and got the advisors for me. What was really interesting about this is that I started getting advisors that were in different areas, you know, people that deal with space, people that deal with intelligence, people that deal with biowarfare, stuff that you wouldn't necessarily think I should need, but I got them, you know. And And now I had the ability to start pulling these people together. And I had this one really interesting contact out in Washington, D.C. that was connected to the highest levels of government. That's how I can say it. And so I was able to pull off a coup in regards to what anybody in this field has ever been able to pull off, which was a conversation with not only my advisors, the most important group of the advisors, and somebody representing basically the highest levels of the land, and talking about how do we do something to help the youth understand that this is a reality, but that they're doing really good work, and they could use the empowerment. They could use these the citizens of the United States and the world understanding why it's been kept secret, and that they're not doing it out of malicious reasons. They're doing it because it's an ongoing task. It's an ongoing issue, and they don't.
Holy shit. General McCasland set up Tom DeLonge with all of his advisors for To the Stars Academy, including Hal Puthoff. Okay, it's all coming together, and let's just take him right at his word. Why did he set it up? Why did they meet and agree for this to happen? They wanted the world to know a little bit about the true nature of reality. They didn't want them to know everything because, again, we're in the middle of a persistent Cold War against our adversaries. But they can know a little bit. We don't want, like, lying to people for like 5 generations is pretty fucked up. It's pretty messed up, just lying to people generationally. So they got together. They had a woke disclosure conversation with people in the very high in the administration. And they decided, oh, yeah, we're going to allow a little bit of information to come out. Wow. They basically negotiated a controlled release of selective information for humanity. And now there's no doubt Hal Puthoff has to be at the center of all this. Like, how does he get to be how did McCasland know to make him an advisor? Because Hal Puthoff clearly helped work on all this technology for them. I would bet anything. Anything.
Fully understand it yet, but they're trying their hardest and spending lots of money and have the brightest minds that they can find, and they're building things, and they're having breakthroughs that I think, frankly, we would all be incredibly proud of as a nation of what they've done.
Wow. They're having breakthroughs. Yeah, you could call it a breakthrough. You could call figuring out free energy and how the universe works and there being an ether and how to teleport things. You could call that a breakthrough. I mean, I call it the biggest conspiracy in the history of the world by far. I mean, like a generational conspiracy that they still haven't owned up to, and to this day, at least in 2026. So it's also possible that Tom DeLonge is also only being fed partial information. So what did I do? Dug around To the Stars a little bit. And it's very clear to me, I'll let you judge yourself, but it's clear to me when I look at their content that their content was, here's where the line is. Like, you can tell people that aliens exist. We'll let you say that. Actually, you have to call it non-human intelligence. And you can tell people that physics isn't exactly like we thought, that the aliens are using different physics or whatever. But that's it. That's all. Right? There's a clear line. We're going to protect national security. They came to an agreement with the government. That agreement clearly included protecting national security. So, chat, I found someone. Chat, I think this might be a match. I don't know which direction you swipe, but I'm going to swipe the good way, chat, on this one. So I found someone special. I guess you could say it's pretty serious. And it turns out that the To the Stars Academy also picked up a Lockheed Martin engineer. Well, that perked my old ears up. My old ears got real interested in that. Turns out Steve Justice, former director of the Science and Technology Division of To the Stars Academy, and he was a director at Lockheed Martin Skunk Works for, I think it was Advanced Concepts in the Skunk Works. Ooh, we found someone interesting here. Someone that definitely knows Charles Chase. No question. So let me see what we got here. Here is, this is actually from To the Stars Academy. This is one of their interviews that they released. So when we're trying to understand what is their objective, what is their goal, what are they trying to do? Well, this interview was one of the things that they were trying to do. They were trying to push content. It's kind of like use social media. Like, it almost feels like they were trying to do what I'm doing. It's like push these ideas, push this science into the public consciousness, but don't disclose anything that will harm national security. So this is actually, he's being interviewed by Lou Elizondo. This interview only has like 500 views. I don't know. Maybe this is somewhere else where they got more views. From 2020. So where did I have interesting clipped here? I'm just going to let it start. And then I think he has some intro stuff that he does here. And I'm going to go ahead and skip ahead in a second.
Employees came down there, and in that photograph someplace of all the employees gathered around the first production delivery airplane, I'm in there somewhere. Yeah, that was 1978.
So he talks about he spent 30 years at Lockheed Martin. 30 years, very long time. One of the interesting things he discusses is the fly-by-wire system. Like the first 20 minutes, they discuss the fly-by-wire system of basically autopilot. And what he says is that some of these crafts, I think it was the F-117? Can't remember. I think it was that one. Was not stable, which meant they had to have a computer automatically real-time calculate to stabilize the plane. So that you just punched in a computer what you wanted the plane to do, and then the plane would fly stably. But in real life, it's being controlled by a computer. Well, chat. Fly-by-wire system. Well, there you go. That would be our precursor to our autopilot of our orbs flying around for sure. I'm not saying that's obviously we're not using an archaic 1960s system and some magic plasma orbs that are flying around. But that's the precursor. And he basically explains that for the first 20 minutes of this interview. So check that part out if you're interested in the fly-by-wire system and how they basically started to develop autopilot capabilities. Turns out it was Lockheed Martin Skunk Works that were the first ones to develop it. Interesting. He mentions Hal Puthoff in this interview. We're going to skip ahead. Somewhere around 30 minutes is when it starts to get good.
Because that meant all the information was going to have to flow up to me. And my days didn't allow that. I had to manage up as well as manage down. So for strategic things, I needed for those to be brought to me. You have to delegate that. So I actually would set up a thing called RAD in my organization: roles, responsibilities, accountability, and decision-making. And for each box on the org chart, I identified role, responsibility, accountability, and decision-making. And I would...
Classic big company jargon bullshit, chat. I have spent my whole life in big companies like this. Know all about it. This is exactly the guy we want to be focused in on. You got to just trust me on this, chat. Spent a lot of time in big companies, org charts, all that bullshit. This is the man. This is the man. And I want to get at what we're trying to find out right now from this. This is our first interaction with him. We want to figure out how good of a bullshitter he is. How good of a bullshitter is this guy? I'm going to expect him to be pretty good. Because if you are in some secret magical technology shit, you got to know how to talk to people in the public and what not to say. Let's find out.
Brief that to the team so that they know who.
So, Steve, what is your job function at TTSA?
The big job function for me in terms of materially contributing to TTSA is the aerospace division director. So if we look at the continuum of what we're dealing with, we have the observed phenomena out there, you know, the videos or radar tracks or eyewitnesses or whatever it is. In parallel with that, if there is materials that we believe are connected with these that people have collected over time, we'll put it in the category of evidence. So how do we pair that up and explain what's going on? How do we then tie it to, we'll say, the mathematics of it, the physics, like what Hal brings to the equation, to try to understand the model of what is going on? And then from that, we have to...
Boy, he's on a first name basis with Hal Puthoff, huh? Not Dr. Puthoff, Hal. That's just Hal. It's just Hal to him. Interesting. Oh, by the way, I am going to read between the lines. I am going to overanalyze the shit out of every single thing this guy says. So if you're not down for that right now, you're watching the wrong channel. Here we go.
Extract what are the technologies that realize this model, that turn theory into some sort of physical element, whether it's thrust or, you know, Tom uses the term anti-gravity, whatever it is. How do we make it real? And then there's a step of, okay, well, you've got, you know, the equivalent of a jet engine sitting there. That doesn't fly. If you start it up on a dolly, it'll just go careening across the ramp someplace. So then how do you incorporate that into a system that gives us capability we can exploit? And so my job is to kind of pick from the evidence and start working through the science and the theory and the models to the technologies to the applications.
So let's talk about that then. Can you give our listeners, from your opinion, I know we got a lot of different projects going on, a lot of them are very exciting, but if you had to pick three, what were those three projects that TTSA is?
Okay. First of all, what's this guy's job exactly? Doesn't make sense to me. So they're supposed to watch videos of UFOs and then they're supposed to what? Figure out how it works and build something? Well, then why aren't they doing that? Why did none of them actually do that then? That's my question. And like, isn't this guy like already in Lockheed Martin Skunk Works? So why isn't he just explaining to us how they fly around and how they work? Isn't that the point? So my red flags are going off like crazy because my first thought is if I'm in his shoes, what would I be saying? First thing I would be saying is here's how the UFOs fly. Here's how the physics works. I would say I'm Lockheed Martin and we build crazy shit like this. Therefore, you can trust me. But instead, he's going, my job is to figure out how this all works and work with Hal Puthoff, and hasn't explained anything so far yet.
Working on that you think are potentially really great value.
So let's give him a chance. So let's judge him. Now he's going to tell us what are the things that TTSA, this is 2020 interview, what were they working on? Here we go.
Value or that give you personal satisfaction the most?
Well, one is the work that Hal is doing regarding, there's two things associated with Hal's work. One is this engineering the space-time metric, because
one is engineering the space-time metric that Hal Puthoff is doing. Well, there it is, chat. Okay. Santa came early. I guess we're having Christmas in May this year, chat. Holy smokes. He gets asked, what are the three biggest things TTSA is working on? First thing is Hal Puthoff space-time metric engineering. Okay, let me just go back like 5-10 seconds or whatever.
If you had to pick three, what were those three projects that TTSA is working on that you think are potentially really great value or that give you personal satisfaction the most?
Well, one is the work that Hal is doing regarding, there's two things associated with Hal's work. One is this engineering the space-time metric, because that's that critical puzzle piece of figuring out how we take advantage of that evidence and how we might make things work. That project to me is really interesting because this is almost the equivalent of trying to figure out how to make an engine that powers an airplane. The other day we had a
kind of like you said, right? World War II, we're flying propeller airplanes, and all of a sudden the Germans show up with these, complete paradigm changing technologies called a jet engine. And
Chat, what am I listening to here? This is the most spooky interview I've ever listened to in my whole life. This is like Star Trek, people on the Starship Enterprise pretending not to know how the warp nacelles work. Like, what are we doing here? Just fucking tell me how it works. Stop beating around the bush. Stop making weird analogies to this is like when we finally got airplanes in the World War for the first time. Like, yeah, obviously you guys know some shit. Just out with it. Spit it out. Out of your mouth.
Now all of a sudden we've got to figure out how it works.
Right, exactly. Now, but let's put this in the proper perspective. People will say, well, that's a great analogy. So we're ready to now build an airplane because we got a jet engine. So the analogy in a teleconference we had the other day was to have a locomotive that is pulling a train down the track. That's the ultimate objective. The starting point for that is some sort of early version of man walking out to a lake on a very cool morning and seeing vapor rising from a lake, going, what is that? And now we figure out that it's water. Okay. There's an energy process and it is converting it from the water in the lake to this vapor that's rising up. Wow, there's energy associated with that.
Is this going where I think this is going, chat? Is he talking about electricity? Is this guy about to start talking about directed energy conversion? I swear to God, if this dude mentions directed energy conversion, that's it. I'm going to stalk this guy full time. Quitting my job, stalking full time.
If there's something, can we do something that? So now we go and we study water in this other state and we get the steam, and steam has a lot of energy inside of it. Okay, so how do we make steam? So now we make steam. Now, how do we turn steam into something that creates an energy for us? Okay, we've got a lot of this energy stored in steam, but how do we extract that energy into a mechanical device? So now there's a piston that moves. We inject steam into this piston and it moves. Okay, now how do we convert that motion into a rotary motion that powers a wheel? Okay, now how do we scale that up enough to put it onto something that can move forward?
And in the meantime, having to invent a condensator, a transmission, drive shafts, pulleys.
All that infrastructure.
Guys, so what am I getting with this part here? Where am I getting at with this? I was having dinner with my dad, and I told him, Dad, when I research these engineers, especially the ones that are like the project managers, it reminds me of you, Dad. It reminds me of you, because the people that are the ones that are in the know are not the dudes on the bottom line, right? On the front row who are building the shit. It's the project managers. It's the project managers that got to figure out, okay, how are we going to do this and solve this problem? Who do I have to pull in to make this thing happen? The Charles Chases of the world, this guy of the world, Steve Justice of the worlds. And these are the guys that I'm most suspicious of, because these are the guys that are going to be very good at lying. Very good. They probably spent their whole career obfuscating and lying about the science and the physics. And they probably know how to speak in classical physics terms and never once even begin to have anybody think that they believe in the ether or any of that stuff. Truthfully.
That's all that supporting set of technologies that's out there to make it into what becomes a locomotive that's pulling cars behind it.
Right. So for literally a glass of water to now all of a sudden a multi-ton locomotive pulling cargo.
Okay, let's skip ahead a little bit here.
Didn't know why you would stick those two pieces of material together. The machines to do it didn't really.
So here he actually said something. I kind of want to go back, but I'll just say it instead. He mentions the magnesium, bismuth, zinc. His second thing he says is the metamaterial. The magnesium, bismuth, zinc. He says that, I don't know what the evidence or so to support this is, that weird alien metamaterial thing acts as a waveguide that also amplifies, or I think the frequency upshifts the frequency or something like that. Basically alluding to like what Salvatore Pais talks about with increasing the electromagnetic field strength, but acting as like a waveguide that propagates and basically creates this electromagnetic field around the craft, like a bubble, basically. So he speaks about that, and that being their second thing. So if there are alien craft, the thing that they would have developed that humans would struggle with is microchips. We call it lithography. But really, when you look at lithography, what we're doing is we're 3D printing at the smallest possible scales. That's what lithography is really all about. 3D printing on the smallest possible scales. And the end game, the best possible lithography machine, is a Star Trek replicator. Something that can just Earl Grey hot. Right? Okay, let's let him keep going here. Forget what he said.
Allow those two materials to stick together. That's interesting to me. Now we're getting to a stage where we have the machines that can make these materials stick together, put them together at the thicknesses that we're observing, which is almost on an atom by atom basis. And there's been.
Bro, what? Did he just say atom by atom basis? Okay, I wasn't going to play the clip, chat. I wasn't going to play it. Okay? So that's not my fault. Here it is. Atomic scale manufacturing, huh?
Something might change. And so we predict that we'll be able to put those incoherent and generate a beam. And people have done those with Bose-Einstein condensates, at very low temperature. But using one of those constraints, Lorentz invariance, well, that fermion condensate is a beam in a different reference frame. So in my mind, that shows you can build a beam out of fermions, a million times more powerful than a laser, plus atomic scale manufacturing and maybe transport of matter over a distance.
Well, wait, hold on, chat. Will you look at that? That is old Charles Chase of the Revolutionary Technology Divisions of the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works, talking about atomic scale manufacturing. You know what? He's good buddies. He's good buddies with our new bestie, Steve Justice. Interesting. Atomic scale manufacturing, you say? Okay. Please continue.
And some analysis done by universities that show that it turns into something called a subcritical waveguide, which means it's propagating energy at very high frequencies when it should not be carrying energy through it. So that's interesting to me.
By the way, somebody that can say that, I couldn't even remember what the shit he just said right there. Propagating waveguide frequencies super high. Yeah, this is a man that knows. This is a man that's definitely not saying all that he knows right here in this interview.
I like what you're saying with that, because I've often told people, there's nothing uncommon about seeing a 747 at an international airport. What would be uncommon seeing that aircraft would be, for example, inside of an Egyptian tomb, right? Because that technology didn't exist back then, so you wouldn't expect to find something. And so here we are, a piece of material that has been put together in a way that
flared end like a hat on the end of it, and it has a blade unlike anything that we've ever seen, and we don't understand what it is. Now, let's flash forward and say that it is the exhaust valve out of a 454 V8 from an early.
Okay, so now he's talking about reverse engineering. He's saying we find some random parts and we're trying to figure out what they do and how they work. Okay, whatever.
Early 70s Corvette. Okay.
Right. Where do you start with that, right?
But the question is, the thing is, we don't know what an exhaust valve is. We don't know what a V8 is, and we don't know what a Corvette is. Okay. And the question is, did this piece that we find, is it an exhaust valve? Is it something that materially
wait for it, chat,
contributes to, we'll call it the propulsion, like an exhaust valve would in a Corvette? Or is it a part of the glove box, that's an ornamental thing that has nothing to do with the function of it? So, we don't know any of that. And it's our job as detectives to try to do experimentation with these materials, with all the evidence that we have, to ferret out whatever facts we possibly can that provide direction for the theory and exploitation of the theory. And this is where the artificial intelligence comes in.
Okay. We got to figure out the theory. This is where the artificial intelligence comes in. You couldn't script that any better. He's going, okay, we got to connect all these dots. We got to figure out how this UFO technology works and how to make this shit turn magical. How do we teleport stuff? How are we doing all this? Oh, let's just feed it to the AI. The AI will do it. Holy shit. Oh yeah, the AI is the only thing that's going to be able to do it. Humans aren't going to be able to do that shit. Definitely going to require AI to pull this off. So now you start to realize, look at it from this lens. We might not be able to manipulate space-time without AI. We might need computers to actually pull it off, because humans might not be able to do those kind of linear processes fast enough in real time as is needed. Wouldn't that be a dark answer?
This is another one of the really exciting things that I see going on with Joe Sherman in one of the previous podcasts. Great guy, love talking with him. But this is
he's incredibly intelligent.
Oh yeah, frighteningly smart. And I'm so glad that he's on board. But the system that he brings is going to allow us to find dots that we can't see because of our own perception limitations, our own preconceived notions, how we see things, and maybe connect dots in a way that we are unable to connect them. We had this discussion the other day as well. Our vocabulary is very limited in trying to explain this stuff. I mean, we're trying to explain it in the context of the stuff that we experience in our lives. Right,
our current paradigm.
Our current paradigm. If you were to take a smartphone.
And so this is great. This is actually very true, right? Is that number one, the AI is going to see past the disinformation. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. Depends on how it's programmed. If you feed it without constraints, then it will see past this 4D reality we've stuck ourselves in. And it'll go, look, there must be a connection between quantum entanglement and wormholes. Oh, look, we solved the Schrodinger equation. Maybe we can understand this concept. Maybe we can figure out, we can control quantum entanglement. If you can figure that out, now you've controlled gravity. And for the AI, that's probably relatively trivial. For a human, it's impossible.
Back to medieval times and ask them to tell you what it was.
Oh, the other thing I was going to say is this is also where the vocabulary becomes very important. He actually makes a really interesting analogy here where he says, if you were to go back to the medieval times and have them explain an airplane, the way they would explain it would make no sense. They would say it's a metal bird flying around the sky. You will say, well, no, that's not really what's going on. But that's how their viewpoint, because that's the reality they live in. So when people see a plasma orb flying around, this is why you have so many dum-dums who are like, oh, you think aliens zapped the plane, because in their tiny reality that they live in, orbs flying around has to be aliens. Their reality doesn't have advanced physics in it, right? That doesn't exist in their world, in their minds. And so a lot of this, and why it's been so difficult to decode for people, is that same problem exists over generations within physics. Radiant energy is 0-point energy. It's the same conceptual idea. But if you don't understand that these are the same concepts, then you can't see, then it looks like there's a million different theories out there. But they aren't. And really, 0-point energy is just a simple twist on radiant energy that's really more evolved. It's like, it says, oh, we've learned a lot more since then, so we're going to incorporate these other things that we've learned since the 1900s, like quantum mechanics. Okay, skip ahead a little bit.
Books and movies and all that kind of stuff. A domain where my brain does not work at all. Just that whole entertainment side is really new to me. But, that's an important element of that. There's some really interesting stuff here. And as a human, why would we not be curious about that? A couple of the attributes of the human being that I just love is the ability to wonder and...
Wait. Oh, did I miss the question?
Important and it's really important. So books and to one
asking questions.
Okay, here we go.
What an incredible domain to be able to wonder and ask questions to try to understand what is going on.
Well, speaking of asking questions, I'm going to ask you a tough question, and I want to hear your perspective. I'm sure there's some folks in our audience that want to hear this as well and would like to hear your honest opinion. TTSA is a B corporation. A lot of what we do is for public benefit. If that being the case, then why are we partnered up with the United States government, and what good...
Chat, you thought I was going to have you watch some random old Lockheed Martin dude for no reason? Do you not know Ashton Forbes? Ashton Forbes is very good at his research. He's not going to make you watch some bullshit. No, there's going to be some good ass questions, and it's only going to get better from here. So, number one, why are you partnering with the government? Yeah, that's a very good question. Very good one. Why is TTSA partnering with the government when you're claiming to want to give us disclosure? It's a little bit suspicious, for me at least.
It can possibly come of anything with TTSA partnering up with the United States Army. I mean, the Army is an organization that goes to war. It develops weapons of war. From your perspective, can you give me the Steve Justice rationale why a company like TTSA would want to partner with the United States government?
I respect that people have concerns about how the government may use information, how they may, the threat of locking down information, of not talking. But what I'll say in the case of the folks that we work the CRADA with, and people need to understand this CRADA did not show up overnight. There's a lot of relationships you had, Lou, inside the government and, still have to this day that are rich and productive. And there was a group of people within the Army that you connected with that had, I'm going to call it that wonder and inquisitiveness.
Okay. First of all, just completely dodged the question. What are we talking about? I mean, obviously, the question was about how can we trust you because you're literally working with the government and you're trying to tell us you're revealing government secrets. And your response is you're going to tell me some story about your productive connections in the government. You're just making it more obvious that this is obviously some controlled government disclosure plan. And if you think I'm going to trust some plan that was made by some boomer white dudes around a conference table where everyone was talking about their fucking feelings or whatever other bullshit, no, thank you. No, thank you. I don't even care what your plan is. I hate it. I hated it before it was even thought of.
And the really good thing about what they bring to this is they've got a lot of smart people. They've got some facilities that don't just exist anywhere. And
this is my problem. I know these people are very damn smart. They're very smart. They figured out either space-time manipulation and or how to make an AI that can do space-time manipulation. This is why I don't trust them. This is why when they come out and they hide space-time manipulation and they don't tell us about it, but they go, hey, yeah, there's non-human intelligence. Don't you want to know about that? No, I don't trust you at all. Give me the free energy. Give me the warp drives. Then maybe I'll begin to trust you when you start to tell the truth and stop bullshitting like you don't know what you're talking about.
With the structure of a CRADA that allows the sharing of information that's generated, and considering the enthusiasm of these people on the Army side to want to investigate this, to move the ball down the field, it seemed like a natural partnership.
I get that, Steve.
Okay. And I'm going to call more bullshit here. He's trying to sell a story that some Army dudes were like, hey, there's like weird UFO stuff going on. We should investigate that. Stop it. Your origin story makes no sense. No one's buying it. This did not start because some Army dudes were like, yeah, we should investigate the UFO phenomenon. No, that's not what's happening. What's happening here is a bunch of people who are in the know that know we've got magical orb space-time manipulation technology. Their conscience got the better of them, and they want some of it to be revealed. Because they've got children and grandchildren. They're going to grow up fucking slaves, not knowing anything. And they're like, shit, I played a big part in this. That's why this is going down. This has nothing to do with, well, we're just trying to find out the truth for these dag nubbit UFOs is flying around in the sky. That is not. If you believe that, I'm sorry. You are very, very naive. They did not start a multi-million-dollar media corporation making movies and weird podcasts because they wanted to investigate with a whole bunch of CIA spooks and military people because they wanted to investigate the strange UFOs flying around in the sky. Now, they know exactly what's going on. What this is a operation, PSYOP, whatever you want to call it, to get the information out to us. And if you want a base take on it, I would say the base take is this. I'm doing what these people wanted to do like a million times better than they do it. They wanted to have this weird aura of authenticity, and they would present this authentic content about this stuff and make this all palatable to people. And you can listen to this and just tell nobody's buying this. Nobody's going to listen to this and buy this. None of this feels authentic. And that's why it's not popular, and that's why nobody listened to it, and that's why they went under as a company. Meanwhile, I'm just some random dude independently investigating, discovering in real time, and it's compelling. It's interesting to people. More people are watching this live than watch that whole podcast we're watching. The reason being is because we're doing it authentically in real time, and we're not holding anything back. If they wanted to do disclosure, that's what they had to do to be successful.
But what if these people want to build weapons of war with this technology?
We're going to get somber here right now. Get ready. It's going to get a little somber.
Because, from my perspective, Steve, I'll tell you, I'm unapologetic. I am a very patriotic American, and none of us in TTSA who've worked for the government, either directly as an employee or as a contractor, I think want to do anything against our government. We are very patriotic individuals. And for me, I don't look at it as building of weapons of war. We can provide technology that helps even just one of our brave men and women in uniform to come home safely and be back with their families. And
so there he goes. He gives it away right there. He says, I'm not going to harm national security. So if you had any doubt on whose side these people are on, they are on Uncle Sam's side. They are on the side of covering it up. Yes, they may want you to know about aliens, but they do not have your best interest at heart. This is like the abusive boyfriend who's telling you to hit you for the last time. I promise that was the last time I'm going to hit you. I will change and I will be better now. You know how it works out. It never works out that way. Go leave them. Find someone new. Find someone that respects you for who you are.
And have a holiday dinner, then to me, that's worth it. I don't look at it as building weapons of war. I look at it as building a defense around our people. And the technology we're dealing with, I personally don't see it being used in that application. And you're absolutely right. They bring lots and lots to the table. They bring resources and experimental.
Chat. Lou Elizondo doesn't see them using this technology as a weapon of war. Tell me more, Lou Elizondo of the counterintelligence. You don't see us using UFO technology and space-time manipulation technology as a weapon of war? Well, you guess what? They used it as a weapon of war against MH370 in 2014. In fact, they used it against a civilian airliner. Justify that. I can't wait to hear Lou Elizondo justify zapping MH370 with some alien technology. His alien technology. I think it's human technology.
Equipment that would cost millions and millions of dollars. And unless somebody wants to plop that kind of money into our lap, we have to rely
in the universe. And so there are people out there, and I know most Americans haven't been exposed to what you and I have been exposed to, but there's people out there that want to undermine what we have. And the level of sacrifice that is being made on a daily basis that allows us to live the lives that we live, it is stunning to me, the sacrifice of our young men and women. I don't consider war to be a sport. War is a horrible, horrible thing. My dad was in World War II and described very vividly to me some of the experiences he had. And I remember when my selective service card came when I turned 18, and he just looked up and said, I fought enough war for you and every one of your classmates. And he never.
Wow. Well, that makes it hard. My grandfather was a prisoner of war in Germany, and he fought enough war for me to not have to fight in war as well. And I still remember I was in Singapore when I signed up for my, you have to do your Social Security draft thing when you turn 18. And this is the harsh reality. This is the justification for why it's hidden under national security. This is the side for the people that are, full catastrophic disclosure. This is the side that that they ignore, which is that hiding this technology keeps us safe, keeps our people safe, keeps us in control of this planet so that when wars are fought, we don't lose anybody or we lose barely anybody. I mean, we rescued a pilot behind enemy lines in Iran that was crashed down there for like over 24 hours by detecting his heartbeat. And you have to realize that the disparity of technology is people haven't even quite grasped it. So the flip side of this is that hiding this technology for national security is the reason why America controls the world. And the reason why your lives are so comfortable and the reason why you can criticize your government so safely is because America controls the world. If you don't believe me, go to China and try to say something about Chinese government. Go to Russia and try to say something about the Russian government. You will find out very quickly that you are not in the freest country in the world. Now, love America, hate America, whatever it is, though that's the reality of the situation.
Said another word about it. It's a huge burden borne by a very tiny percentage of our population. And yet it goes on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
And there's the other part. It's a very tiny percentage of the population that really knows what's actually going on. This is such a huge part of it. You would say, why do more people not realize that the MH370 videos are real? Why are there not more whistleblowers screaming about those videos being real? Because so few people, they've compartmentalized this so deeply that at the end of the day, the number of people at the top that really know the big picture, you can probably count on one hand. You can probably count on one hand. The compartmentalization of information was by design to keep things hidden because science only works in the open. So the answer is don't make science in the open.
And so if we have to fight, I don't want it to be fair. I want it to be an unfair fight if we've got to do that. And
right, overwhelming, crushing, absolutely.
Absolutely crushing. Because as you said, and I actually have given that exact speech,
and there it is. That's the reason right there. That's the reason that explains everything around what's happened related to the leaks of these videos. Why have I not been killed? Why have I been allowed to speak about this? Why have people like Salvatore Pais come to me and been willing to speak about it? Because some people who know feel a moral obligation for the world to know about the science. But the reason why we've been hiding is because we don't just want to be in control. That's not enough. Our technology needs to be so advanced, so much better than everyone else's, that they don't have any chance at all. That's the underlying motivation for hiding this technology. Do you get it? That's how they're thinking. They're thinking we have to be so much more advanced that we have to literally have space-time manipulation while our enemies are using rocket technology. And under a paradigm like that, you will never reveal the technology. Never. In fact, that's how they've been able to get so far ahead, is because that's their whole ethos. The only way to keep people safe is to stay so far ahead that your adversaries can't even compete. Wow.
Not only inside the United States as I speak to civic groups, but also I was invited to speak over stuff. And I've heard it attributed to a number of things, to private conversations, but in speeches is where one of the common threads is.
So I'm probably going to skip past this part, but here's the deal. He gets asked about Ben Rich. Gets asked about Ben Rich saying that we can take ET home. Now, this was huge because to me, if you know that we've got space-time manipulation technology, then you know the significance of what Ben Rich was saying. You know that Ben Rich was speaking to unification of the forces being figured out and us having literal space-time manipulation technology. And that would seem absolutely impossible without the MH370 videos, because there's nothing else that shows space-time manipulation that we have in the public as clearly as those videos do. So we know Ben Rich was being legit. He was being serious. He wasn't joking. But this guy tries to claim that Ben Rich was joking when he said we have the ability to take ET home, and that when he said we have technology buried in the Nevada desert decades beyond the public, he says, oh, he was just saying that to get the investors interested. There ain't no way I believe that. So really, there's only two options for me. One, Steve Justice is either a very good liar, very seasoned liar, knows exactly which narratives to push people away from, or he was simply not one of the people in the compartmentalized crew. That's actually possible. Because I think that what happens is when the CIA needs something special, they go specifically to their guys and they set up a team outside of the official channels of the Skunk Works. I doubt that the CIA is building it directly into the Skunk Works, so they're going to use multiple umbrella corporations and it'll never be able to be leaked back to anybody, right? So it's possible he doesn't know, but I think he knows, and I think he's just bullshitting.
And as the historian for the Skunk Works, yeah, this was a question I had too, and called out for this little paragraph is skunk in the clouds. So that was one of the slides we would put up as a thing of, hey, we're working on pretty cool stuff out there. You know, wait a decade or two and you might see it. But it was to indicate that the skunk had a future out there, but we couldn't discuss it. So the skunk in the clouds was the identified slide. And I used it many times when I was giving speeches to civic groups or schools or whatever. But his actual words in the speech were, I'm going to try to remember this as clearly as I possibly can, was like, you may be wondering what we're working on in the Skunk Works now, and we can't talk about it, but I want you to know we've just been awarded a contract to build this with the skunk in the clouds to fly ET back home. Okay. That's what I have written down that he said. And so, you know, things change over time and that kind of stuff. And there's perceptions and distortions. I can't, like you say, I can't speak for any private conversation.
This guy goes, Ben Rich wrote every single speech he's ever done. He's written it down. Here's Steve Justice saying, I went and looked at the speeches and he has on a piece of paper, we have the technology to take ET home. And here he is going, well, I don't know. Words change and things change and I don't know what people mean. The fuck are you talking about? You just said you just found the paper that is his speech that you read off where he's saying those exact words. Because honestly, I thought that was bullshit before, but now I'm thinking it is really did say that exactly.
Ben had. I can speak to the private conversation he had with me.
Well, let me ask you this, Steve, on that. I mean, if someone has a technology to send a Mars rover to go, let's say.
Here's the worst part. He's basically being asked, he knows what he's being asked. The question was, do you think you have faster than light travel? That's what he's being asked. And his whole answer was evasive. He pretends like he doesn't know what he's being asked. When someone is bringing up Ben Rich in the context of taking ET home, what they're getting at is, have you figured out faster than light travel? Because that's the only fucking way it's going to happen. Sorry, multiple F-bombs tonight. But he doesn't even answer. He's like, well, I don't know yet. Ben Rich wrote down all of his speeches. And yes, he did literally say in one of his speeches that we have the ability to take ET home. But I don't know what that means. That's his response. So I think we can go ahead and say, yes, I don't really believe or trust this guy. And I'm pretty sure he's bullshitting and bullshitting very well. And my guess is he's bullshitting on behalf of the CIA.
onto Mars or an asteroid or another planet and collect soil samples and bring it back home, and there happens to potentially be microbial life or some sort of alien life form, is that really that far-fetched? NASA actually has plans to do just that, don't they? To actually take soil samples and bring them back here to our planet and look at these samples.
They do, but the context that
Steve, how is it possible to navigate a craft at the speed with which UAP are traveling, or estimated by scientists? Wouldn't the risk of striking a foreign object occur along the flight path, whether here or in space?
Okay. Here's another question. This will be the last one for tonight, guys, and we'll get to those super chats. I promise. I saw some big ones. Okay, how are you going to navigate this craft through outer space? Because won't things be in the way? Well, we know the answer is that's not a problem. Things being in the way is not a problem because we're using an extra dimension. It's hyperdimensional, you could think of, which literally means it's going to move outside of our reality with no fields. Aharonov-Bohm effect. Is that magic? You could say it's magic, but it's also our reality. It's quantum entanglement. Quantum entanglement is wormholes. ER equals EPR. That's what that means. Let's see how he responds.
I love this question because that's the question I had when I went down to Austin for that first
Get ready, chat. Get ready.
Trip and met with Hal and his team. You know, it was the discussion of engineering the space-time metric, how you warp space-time to create these, what we observe as really high speeds. You know, in our world, that's how we describe it as speed. To when you're warping space-time, it's not really speed. It's this different phenomenon. And one of my questions was, if you open up, you know, a wormhole, if you start distorting space-time, number one, do you know where you're going to end up? And they said, well, right now, we're not quite sure how you fix where the end of the open wormhole is. And I go,
holy shit. Well, he was definitely lying. He was definitely lying. We don't know how to make it where it's going to go. This is our question. Exactly, Zapparoo. Thank you, Zapparoo. Hello, 4 orbs. Wow. Okay, someone's lying. Someone's lying because this interview was like in 2019. So I don't know when that conversation happened with TTSA, but it couldn't have been that long ago. Couldn't have been that long. It had to be after the MH370 video. Somebody figured out how to make it go somewhere else. And here's where I'll connect it back to what I said in the beginning. Remember the frame of reference. That plane, the orbs are spinning around vertically on the plane. From the plane's frame of reference, the orbs are a wall that's just vibrating back and forth like this. Right? So what that means now is that this might not be a directional beam. This might not be a situation where they're shooting this west to the Maldives. This is now a situation where maybe that thing can just appear anywhere. They might be able to teleport that thing anywhere. Yes, maybe it's going to come out going the same direction it came in, but in theory, that frame of reference can be quantum entangled anywhere. I don't see why there would be a limitation in the direction. So maybe we were right with the right-hand rule, maybe not. But I'm just going to go ahead and say you can't really criticize us if we're wrong on this one, because even the spooks on their podcast, even they're saying they don't know how to go to the other spot or how to show up on the other side. So the whole 4 orbs hypothesis, we know they know the real answer. They know if 4 orbs is correct. And if the letter dash and 4 orbs is correct, then 4 orbs is correct. They know how to do it, and they're not telling the truth. So we've got them caught in a lie here. Because, again, we've got the CIA on 2 recordings in 2014. Someone built that shit for them. Someone knows how to teleport things between 2 points. And yet the government, official government spooks are telling us we got no idea. We don't know how that works. Well, somebody's fucking lying. Somebody is lying.
Well, guys, this is a fundamental problem. If we want to get to someplace in particular, how do you make sure you end up there as opposed to, 6 galaxies over?
Yeah, there's a lot of other places you can end up.
Yeah, that would be not so good, I would think. So, there was these questions. Now, when you start engineering the space-time metric, you are warping space and time in matter.
I surely hope that you were taking shots and or injecting marijuana every time he said space-time metric engineering. How many times does this man mentioned space-time metric engineering more times than literally anybody else that I've ever seen in just one podcast? I think I'm the next person to mention space-time metric engineering the most.
Isn't like what it is, but I'll go back. I'm not a Trekkie by any stretch of the imagination, but I definitely remember in Star Trek where they, part of setting the course was making sure you weren't
referencing Star Trek now.
Going to hit anything when you went, into warp drive. So that's part of what we have to figure out. What are the effects of as you warp the fabric of space time?
Part of me thinks like maybe he really doesn't know. Like maybe they got this guy on the panel and he's just a dum-dum that's just not in the Black Projects. But he's a Lockheed Martin director. He's got to know. So if he knows, then the guy is actually a pretty good liar. He's got me even wondering if he's actually just stupid. So either he's a really, really, really good liar or he's just extremely naive. I can't tell.
As you engineer that, are planets solid there? There are so
let me just lay the groundwork for you here. So you can understand I'm not being that rude to this guy. If anything, I'm kind of being nice to him, right? You're a Lockheed Martin director in the Skunk Works doing the most advanced, crazy shit that you can't tell people about. And then you go to you get pulled into some special thing where all your best buddies are like, you need to be part of this. This is going to be huge. And it's got Hal Puthoff telling you that we can make wormholes and shit, and the wormholes are real, and that we can do wormholes, and we can engineer wormholes. And you're either on board or you're not, bro. You're either on board at that point or you're not. And if you're not on board, we're showing you the door, right? They're going to be like, bye. So you got to assume he's on board. He's talking about this pretty enthusiastically here, which means he thinks this is possibly real. So if that's the case, and you were or are some director of Lockheed Martin, wouldn't the very next thing you do be to go build some crazy ass shit? Very next thing. You're like, shit, warp drives are real. We need to build this right now. I have the resources, the money, everything. The background, the connections. Why aren't they doing that? Oh, because they've got all 1 million NDAs and they can't because they already know how it works. This guy already knows how it works. They all already know how it works. Why aren't they building anything? Why are they doing a media tour instead of actually just building something that can prove it, which they can easily come up with any experiment to do so? Because that's not what this is about. It's not about proving that it works. They know it works. This is about propaganda. This is about information coming to people. That's what this is all about. So what's happening? I'm not going to believe aliens are visiting this planet until they show me that alien body or they explain to me what the hell is going on with the aliens, because I'm staring at their AI drone high beta fusion orbs being tuned in real time, synchronizing together so they can amplify their effects, creating a massive Casimir effect that can warp an airplane. So until we start getting some straight answers about what the fuck is going on, about space-time manipulation and teleporting shit and definitely free energy too, and maybe some kind of scary Skynet thing going on that might be like controlling our lives. Until we start getting some real answers about all that, don't come to me telling me I got to start believing in the aliens. Don't tell me I got to start worshiping the gray aliens or the green aliens or whichever aliens are the nice ones. I don't want to hear any of that woke shit. All I want are the fusion reactors, free energy devices, magnetic motors, whatever, microchips, and the warp drives and the wormhole machines. Then, and of course, sorry, respect to my ScarJo clone and my Jarvis orb. I'm going to have all of those. Then we can start talking about which aliens are the ones that we need to create the new one world religion over. Okay? Hopefully we're all on the same page. Let's go to the super chats, everybody. Hope you guys have a great Friday. I hope you guys are enjoying the live stream and enjoying the content. Hope you guys are enjoying the expose on To the Stars Academy. John Glock hanging out in the pill chat. The medieval analogy of metal birds reminds me of Bob Greenier's O-Day Birdies video. Yeah, shout out to Bob Greenier. I'm going to see if I can get him back on soon. I also emailed Dan Winter as well. We'll see if we can chat with Dan Winter, and I'm going to hit up Joseph P. Farrell this weekend, see if we can get in touch with him, because I want to talk to some of these people, because I think that we have pulled a thread that not many people have pulled and found something that very few people have found. And I think it will be very compelling to some of these other people who have gone down similar paths. And I think they will find that there is a lot of crossover. So should be fun. Shout out to everybody in the Rumble chat. Rumble chat has been blowing up recently, guys. Shout out to you guys. Double M's, Laughing Cat. Hope you guys are doing well. Not Yoda. Nice to see you guys. Oh boy, big super chats. Let's move over here to the YouTube ones. Dr. OMG chat. Holy shit. Christmas it is, chat. Christmas it is, chat. Dr. Park, Green Thumb, $50 super chat. Dr. Park has seen your work and you're on everyone's radar. Let's just say Helion and TAE are meant to be like NVIDIA and AMD. We're not allowed to reveal breakthrough fusion until they say we can. However, your last stream, you're on the money. Chat. I got to get writing, chat. We got to end the stream soon because I got scientific papers to write. I got work to steal. I got credit to steal. And no, I'm not going to publish it anywhere else except for on my social media, because my social media has 300,000 followers. So when I post my social media, it gets way more views than if it gets posted in some boring science journal that nobody's going to read. So yes, I'm going to straight up steal the credit for high beta plasma, the cavities, modifying the cavities to extract energy. I don't even know how to say it, chat, and I'm going to steal the credit for it. And I love it. I love every minute of it. This is exactly how we do it, chat. You know what? They may reject all my FOIA requests. They may blackball me from every podcast. But you know what? We're going to steal their science, steal their physics, and we're going to put our name all over it. And we're going to take credit before they even reveal it, because we know that they're holding it back, because we know they've already got it figured out. Sometimes revenge is a dish best served cold, chat. You know, actually reminds me of the 300 chat. Maybe I have it. Let me see. Yeah. Oh, no. Wait, that's not it. God King. Damn it. Even a God King can bleed. There you go. I did it. That's the thing I was looking for. Okay. Thank you very much for that super chat. Appreciate it. And shout out to my boy, Dr. Park, by the way. I did not put enough, did not give enough props on his name, but now we will for sure. Now we know all about him. Now we know his history in being connected to the Polywell and Dr. Boussard. So I highly recommend, guys, if you want to know more about that, if you didn't understand why that was so significant, talk to the AI, have it go through my live streams, find the Polywell TAE connection live stream. I rewatched that live stream. I don't even rewatch my own live streams. I rewatched that one. Jeez, chat. Some of these times I cook. Sometimes we cook. DGen Specialist. Reflect the Orbital and Space Forge are helping bring AI into space with SpaceX and Tesla late 2026 while getting rid of people. Yes, and if you look at how much these AI companies are worth. The writing is on the wall that AI is the next thing. And probably the reason why everyone was putting these timelines on disclosure that's not when the aliens were going to arrive. That's when the AI is just going to take off. Because the AI took off already in the black world. And now it's some crazy Skynet shit. And they're probably just waiting for that to happen in the public world. And then the AI is going to start telling people how to manipulate space-time. And then it's just going to get really awkward. That's how I think it's going to play out. Winona Riders, thank you for that super chat. Says, thanks for making stupid people not stupid. Dr. Donald E. Scott might expire soon. I think, is he Thunderbolt's project, I think? Try hitting him up for an interview. He might have some great insight that opened my eyes in all of this that he may not be aware of himself. Well, thank you very much for that super chat. I'll check him out. Donald E. Scott. Sounds familiar. Chaotic Good. Thank you, Chaotic Good. The future is a whole lot of AI-powered autonomous weapons. Do you guys see that supposedly some lady's getting brain chipped as well? The brain chip thing is real. I was talking to my dad about this as well. I can see the brain chip thing happening like way sooner than people think, like in the next 5 or 10 years. The moment the brain chips start getting implanted in people and they're not dying from them, people are going to mass be getting brain. I might get one. I've been using AI a lot. And if you use it for the right reasons, if you use it to cross-reference data sources, pull data sources, is extremely powerful. If you use AI to think for you, to tell you if you should believe something's real or not, then you're going to become a literal robot yourself. I mean, like literally you will become a robot. I believe that. So I think that brain chips will basically turn half the people into cattle and cows, and the other half the people will turn into like basically evolve into superhumans. So I think I'm going to evolve into a superhuman and not turn into a cow. So I'm going to get a brain chip. There you go. You heard it here first, chat. Ashton said he's going to get a brain chip. Chaotic Good brought it out of me. Dreaded Max T-Rax Triax $20 super chat. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate that. Big super chat. Zapparoo. This isn't a stream. It's a laser. Pew, pew, pew. Orlando O.J. Sanchez was working in national security when he joined Lockheed Martin in 2014. First to fly the F-22, an interesting covert work history. There we go. There's another interesting rabbit hole to jump down. I was going down the Boyd Bushman rabbit hole recently as well. It's hard to say like who was in the know on some of this and who was just telling stories. And that's what makes this so difficult. That's why we stick with what we know. We've got orb videos of a real airplane that's really missing, and we work backwards from there. And if they want to tell us that the aliens did it or whatever else, well, they better come with a whole lot of receipts. They better come with a whole lot. My guess is they don't have any receipts, and that's why they're quiet as hell. Because if they had enough receipts to say that the aliens did all this, they would have brought that shit out long ago. The moment I had revealed these videos, Obama would have come out himself and been like, guys, here's the truth. It was the aliens that zapped that plane. We were just randomly recording it. We didn't want to tell you because we thought it would freak you out. But now that Ashton Forbes and the 4 Orbsies have found the videos, here's the truth. That's how it would have played out, chat. Moozy G007. We need to find you more. Love all the streams and the analysis and the politics. Moozy G is brain in Polish. Ooh, nice. Big brain. 007, big brain. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Yeah, shout out to Brazil, Poland, and everywhere else. Honestly, United States controls you guys, but they control us too if it makes you feel any better. We're Americans. They control us. They don't give us shit. We got homeless people everywhere. We get nothing. So, yes, they may control you guys in every other country in this world, but if it makes you feel better, we're slaves too. We're slaves to our own system. Kind of messed up, huh? Timothy Foster. Wow, so much to think on. We are gaining ground. Now, let me recap this or bring this back around. General William McCasland is the one people need to be focused on. Okay? These other missing scientists or whatever, I'm sure they've all got interesting stories and they're tragic and whatever. But General McCasland is the one we know for sure had information that would have made him a threat to our enemies, that would have made him a threat to our own deep state and CIA. We know he literally revolutionized or modernized the nuclear arsenal. Where is he? That's the only one I care about. This whole thing about connecting all the missing scientists, it's clearly become some bullshit where they're just trying to sell this collective story that doesn't really exist. But individually, these stories absolutely exist, and General McCasland is the one that really should be getting all the spotlight. Find General McCasland, find his body. We deserve some closure on this, one way or another. If they're going to cover it up, get to the cover-up. Get to the reveal. There we go. That was a direct message for the CIA. We get it. If you took him and you killed him or whatever, just plant his body somewhere, sprinkle some crack on him or whatever you're going to do, because it's starting to get, we're waiting for the reveal now. We're waiting for the crescendo. We're waiting for the final act. Jaleel Robinson, another awesome stream. Jaleel Robinson, shout out to you, man. Gives a donation pretty much at the end of every stream, it feels like. Bar T Welding, Matt Bartleson. Well, I just doxed him. Actually, I think his account says his name on it. Hands down, dopest dope I ever dope smoked. Hell yeah. Smoke, inject, whatever you do, man. Appreciate you, brother. 420 donation. And then Mick Leonard, love this shit. Great show. Yeah, I like switching it up because we do science, a little bit of politics mixed in there, but then we also will do investigative work. And in the old days, it was a lot of investigative work, and then it switched to being a lot more science. So it's kind of fun to go back to some of this investigative work and watch and kind of uncover how these people act, where it is really like a true crime documentary that we're watching play out in real time here, where we're going back to these old interviews where they can't go back and change what they said. And we're looking at it through a lens which nobody had at the time. So I think it's pretty fun. Anyway, thank you guys so much. I hope you guys have a great night. I'll talk to you guys later. We'll be back on Monday. Peace out, everybody. Bye.
Infrared eyes, scanning the black, tracking the heat, never turning back. Control 22, a covert gaze. Control 33, in the cosmic maze. Controls in the mix, secrets untold. Silent watchers, brave and bold. In the shadows, they silently glide, protecting our interests, far and wide. As Pierce, sentinel of the night, watching over with infrared sight, alerting us to threats afar, guiding our defenses like a guiding star. In the silence of space, they keep their post, shields unseen yet feared the most. With precision and speed, they warn of danger, keeping us safe from the missile's anger. As Beers, sentinel of the night, watching over with infrared sight, alerting us to threats afar, guiding our defenses like a guiding star. Controls in the mix, secrets untold, silent watchers, brave and bold. In the shadows, they silently glide, protecting our interests, far and wide. As Beers, sentinel of the night, watching over